Well, kids, you're obviously wondering about whether human beings, the adults that are responsible to bring you into this world, are actually doing something about climate change. We talked about adaptation and mitigation. Adaptation is to deal with the impacts that are already here, and mitigation is, of course, to reduce our impact on climate change and slow down the overall climate change and warming and the impacts. Of course, we are trying very hard to do many things, and those include things like trying to deal with floods, droughts, heat waves, extreme rainfall, landslides, health impacts, and so on. We do it through early warning systems where we take weather forecasts and climate forecasts and say what bad things may happen in the next few days or few weeks or a few months and so on. And we, of course, are deploying lots of renewable energy for reducing emissions from fossil fuel consumptions. We are building lots of electric vehicles which run on batteries, and the batteries can be charged with renewable energies and thus reduce emissions from transportation. We want to reduce emissions from buildings by making them more energy efficient and use less water. And you have now things like green buildings, green certification for buildings and so on. We are trying to reduce emissions from agriculture and food systems. The book is particularly on the US, and it talks about how a state like California, if you know US, you know it's the western state, which is very rich and wants to do something about climate change and is impatient when the central government or the federal government is not doing enough. So it is directly trying to do climate action on its own. And it even talks to other countries like China to have cooperations on how to bring about adaptation and mitigation. But California is quite vulnerable to climate change. The warming and the droughts are causing wildfires, loss of properties and so on. So they are particularly worried about climate change. But there are other states which are not so worried, like Texas, for example. So there are many countries where you may have the central government being very proactive about climate change and climate action. European Union in generally is better at climate action than many other countries like Canada, Australia, US, and the Russia, and so on. But everybody is in this together, so we all have to do something.